Here are a few thoughts from me about how we talk about premature ejaculation. Now, I had a client, let's call him Jeff. He wasn't called Jeff. And he was fairly typical of the guys that I work with, the guys that come and talk to me about premature ejaculation. It was something he'd always struggled with, and he tried lots of things. Books, supplements, I think he'd done an online self-help course to try and last longer. And whatever he'd done, whatever he tried, it hadn't really worked, and he was feeling very disappointed. Now, do note that he had a partner, a girlfriend. He still does, and she is very supportive and completely on his side, and she just wants to see him happy and relaxed into sex with her. Now, as he told me about his experiences, the pain, the frustration, it really welled up in him. And he told me that he didn't feel like a proper man. So that led to a conversation about, well, what is a proper man? And he was telling me about how a man is strong and confident and takes control and gives pleasure, gives orgasms to his woman, his partner. So he's able to dial down and hold on to his own sexual urges in order to give orgasms before getting pleasure himself. He's the kind of sexual man that women want to have sex with. Now, there's nothing new about these tropes, this stereotype about masculinity. And Jeff had got this from all the same places. This has been around for millennia. So in our cultural narrative about strength and confidence and masculinity, to the media, to media stories, the way we like to talk about ourselves, and of course maybe in more recent times porn as well. And there's a whole conversation there about the unrealistic aspects of entertainment porn and how bizarre and how it's not particularly good sexual education or any way of measuring our own sexual performance. But Jeff also told me he had picked up this message from the books and the course that he'd done, the health course, the advice, the support that he'd found. He'd also picked up this message. It had highlighted this feeling of being broken and not being a man. Now, unfortunately, I think I know what he's talking about here. Let's remind ourselves that premature ejaculation is a very common problem. It is estimated that 1 in 3 guys struggle with it to some degree or another. And so there's a big market of guys looking for help and solutions to this, and understandably so. But where there's a big market, there is a lot of therapists, there's a lot of products, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of courses out there, and it's very competitive. It's very difficult to stand out. So in marketing, often some very bold claims get made to get attention and attract customers. And I think it's one of the old golden rules of marketing, especially online, that you highlight the pain points. So a pain point is a problem specific to your target market, to your customer. You highlight that, and as you describe your product, you turn the pain points up. You describe all the ways that the problem could impact your life, how it'll get worse over time if you don't buy into this product or try this supplement or solution or cream or whatever it is. And you promise a fix, and you basically say that everything will be great and the problem will go away if you buy the product. Now, of course, there are pain points around premature ejaculation. It can be a source of a great deal of distress, frustration, low self-esteem. It can certainly cause relationship problems. So there are pain points. But what about not being a proper man if you struggle with premature ejaculation? Now, unfortunately, this doesn't apply to the whole self-help industry. There are reputable people, reputable therapists and good information out there. But there are a lot of people who make claims that are completely untrue and unhelpful. And I am going to pick an example here. He's been around for quite a long time. He sells various online courses for men to improve their sexual performance. He's got a YouTube channel with 96,000 subscribers. He's all over Facebook. He's got lots of websites, lots of marketing set up, and he's been doing this for some time. So he is a voice. He is an authority, an expert in this industry. Now, I'm not going to comment on the content of his courses or whether it works. That's not for the conversation today. But if we look at his marketing, one thing you can do is sign up to his email mailing list, where every week he'll send you for free a supportive nugget of information or tip or bit of advice around premature ejaculation. Now, he's not the only guy taking this approach and using these methods, but I'm going to pick specifically some of the things that I've seen in his emails, just to give you a taste. So, at the top of an email, right at the beginning, classic internet marketing, a woman will never tell you you're bad in bed. So 99% of guys don't realise. When she's feeling unfulfilled, she may be forced to seek fulfillment elsewhere. Don't let this happen to you. Another one. Bad news. PE and ED can develop / get worse as time goes on. Imagine how awful that would be. You need to be able to last for 20 minutes to please her. It's in her DNA. Your woman needs to, in bold, have an orgasm through intercourse to feel satisfied. Otherwise, she will cheat. Couple more. If she says it's not a problem, she's lying. And interestingly, premature ejaculation is reaching epidemic proportions. In fact, in my book, if you can't last for at least 20 minutes consistently during intercourse, you have a serious PE problem! ! Now, you can see how unhelpful and misleading this is, and I think there is no premature ejaculation epidemic. It might be in these times more guys are jacking off to internet porn on their phones, so they're kind of distracted and they're disconnected from their bodies and they're not thinking about giving pleasure to anyone else, which doesn't really set them up for sexual relationships. There might be a bit more of that going on, and it's very commonplace, but certainly this is not an epidemic. Something that I found very curious, where he's listing one of the benefits of his Overcome Premature Ejaculation course. One of the benefits, I quote, "Just imagine the look on her face when you come with a hurricane force strong enough to hit the wall across the room." Now, all of this is marketing hype and exaggeration, and we know that. But in this case, it's really unhelpful. I have a problem with this. It's really negative. Imagine a young guy who hasn't had that much experience of sex. He's just starting out, and maybe the few experiences he's had haven't lasted particularly long, and he's comparing himself to porn on the screen. Now, he might start doing a bit of research and start looking at some of this stuff. What kind of start to his sexual life is that? And look at my client Jeff. He was frustrated. He got hold of this information. He read these books, did these courses, and this underlined in his mind that he really did have a problem. But there was a fix. But the fix didn't work. So now he's left feeling, I've got this terrible problem. I'm part of the epidemic. It's not working. My wife is going to leave me. I'm going to be sexless, lonely and dejected and a failure. I am not a man. So, deep breath. Let's just address this with some facts. If you come sooner than you would like to, you are very much still a man. If you've always come sooner than you would like to, you are very much still a man. If you've tried a few things to last longer and it hasn't quite worked yet, you are very much still a man. And what is this label, this often self-diagnosis of premature ejaculation? What does it really mean? It's very subjective. Is it that we don't last as long as we'd always like to, or as long as the guys in porn, or the stories that we hear about other guys? I mean, what does it mean? Some guys, their bodies work in a way where they don't last particularly long, and their partners are fine with that, because don't forget, only 25% of women actually come from intercourse alone. So they find lots of other ways of giving pleasure to each other, they get creative, and this is never really an issue. They are not part of any epidemic. So when is premature ejaculation a problem? Well, we can look to the DSM-5, the diagnostic manual that many psychotherapists use, and as part of the definition in there, it says that the symptoms cause clinically significant distress in the individual. Or in the International Society of Sexual Medicine, their definition includes negative personal consequences such as distress, bother, frustration, and/or the avoidance of sexual intimacy. Not being able to last for 20 minutes or not being able to generate hurricane force orgasms that hit the wall across the room. Note that the most common form of premature ejaculation is lifelong, so guys have always had it, it's just the way their body wants to work. Now there is acquired premature ejaculation that can come along later in life or come along out of the blue, and that might be symptomatic of a health problem, a prostate issue or hypothyroidism, but it's relatively rare. Normally it's just the way that guys' bodies work. Now this applies to many guys, and they deserve to get support and information about what this means and what they can do to overcome it. They don't deserve to have their frustrations pathologized and be told that they have a serious problem with terrible consequences. Remember, the average duration of intercourse in research studies have shown is 5.4 minutes. Now this varies greatly, but it highlights that this is what sex looks like. This is living and giving pleasure and having fun in the real world as a man. Now, of course, a lot of guys want to last longer, build their stamina, and their partners might really want that too. And I look at that as a healthy type of personal development, gaining skills, not fixing a problem. It can be compared to maybe some guys naturally last longer than others. Some guys are physically able to lift heavy weights. Some guys can do a 200 kilo deadlift much easier than others. Some guys can run elite race times much easier than others. That's in their DNA. That is the genetic advantage that they might have. So other guys, the rest of us, might need to do some work, gain some skills, do some training. It's just like any skill, any form of development. Now imagine deadlifting or training to run, but added the pressure that if you don't achieve your goals, if you never do this, life's going to be terrible and you're going to be lonely. How realistic is that? Well, that's what Jeff was trying to do. That's what guys are trying to work on to improve their sexual performance, with the added pressure and anxiety around failure and the label of who they're going to be. It's impossible to make any progress. So don't believe the scaremongering and the hype. Your sexual performance, how long you last in bed, is absolutely no measure of how much of a man you are. There are a million ways to give pleasure and love and live and to have satisfying, fun relationships. And I think that if you want to last longer in bed, if you want to work on this and experience more pleasure with your partner more often, then go for it. I think this ambition makes you more of a man. Just remember that this is personal development, gaining skills, rather than fixing something that's broken.